Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to East Central College for this very special occasion. This is an opportunity for us, for all of us, and especially the college family, to honor someone who has done so much to make this institution, East Central College, what it is today. I'm so glad that all of you are here to share this with us. I'm John Bauer. It's been my honor to work at East Central for nearly 20 years now, and since 2012 to serve as president of the college. That's my theme song. I'll mention now that for those of you who are interested, we have as you can hear, an outstanding jazz concert that will be starting at 7:30 this evening, so hang around for that. I've been president since 2012, but when I first came to the college in 1995, Bob Hansen was board president, completing his last term as a college trustee, and I'll always consider it my great fortune to be associated with Bob in that capacity. I'd known him before then, but to have that official connection as an employee and as a trustee is certainly an honor for me. I'm even more fortunate today to be with you as we permanently recognize his contribution to the college. As many of you know, our story, the East Central story, began in the 1960s with the effort to first put the question on the ballot, and then with voter approval of the college and the election of that first board of trustees in 1968. But really, our story goes back even further than that. The state and the nation, right after World War II and then through the 1950s and into the 1960s, focused its attention on developing a system of community colleges around the country and certainly in Missouri. And it was at that time that an interest in what was then called a junior college, today we say community college, took root right here in this region. And that interest then developed into the work that led to the institution today. We were really part of that explosion of community colleges that took place in the 1960s, and it all became real for us in April of 1968 when voters overwhelmingly, by a margin of some 3-1, approved forming the district and electing 6 individuals out of a field of 23 to lead that effort. And of course, one of those 6 was Robert E. Hansen. There was much for that board to do, and you're going to hear about that this evening. But the board was successful in moving forward despite those monumental tasks. And 45 years ago, this week, classes were first held, then in temporary facilities in Union, and then look at the campus, the facility here. Just look how far we've come in that 45 years. It won't be too long, really, just a few years, that we're going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the college's founding. And I hope, and I certainly believe it to be true, that we have fulfilled the vision and dreams of those associated with the college back on that day in April of 1968, and the vision, Bob, that you had for the college as you took office as trustee on that day. A little bit about this facility, which will soon be known as Hansen Hall. This building grew as the college itself grew. It started as phase 3 of the campus in the late 1970s, constructed then in what was known as the Vocational Technical Building, now kind of the middle part of this building. Then it was expanded in the 1980s to include the former classroom laboratory building, the CL building, and then expanded again in the 1990s to include what is now the John Edson Anglin Performing Arts Center, classrooms, the art gallery, offices, and other facilities. So for years now, as this building has grown and expanded, we've referred to it as the ACBCCC building. But earlier this year, the board saw fit to name the facility in honor of Bob Hansen, and that's the work we're about today. Dedicating this building is Robert E. Hansen Hall, and it's a privilege to be able to do that. So let's begin with that work. It's my privilege now to introduce to you the president of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Jim Perry.
Thank you, Dr. Bauer. They're playing my theme song. They were supposed to play Okie from Muskogee, but I guess the message ain't got there. My first thing I need to do is introduce our present Board of Trustees. As I call your name, please stand up and turn around and wave at the cameras. Why not? Ann Hartley, Vice President of the Board. Bruce Fink Johnson, Treasurer. Tom Dill, Secretary. Don Koppelman, Member. Joel Strutker, Member. Now it's even a greater pleasure. I'm going to introduce the past trustees that are present. There are 7 living trustees, past trustees living. They've all been notified, don't know how many are here, so I'm going to cover the bases, I'm going to call them off. First one, Bob Hansen. Glad you showed up today, Bob. Bob was one of the original board members, as you heard John say. Don Beans was also an original board member. Thank you, Don. Rich Bruni. Rich Bruni is in the back. Thank you, Rich, for coming. Gail Wood. Gail Wood's back there. Board Eversole. Oh, there he is, way back there. Oh. I was going to say that, but I'd got in trouble later. Charlie Betts. Kathy Scott. Okay, thank you. Now, on behalf of the present board and the past board of trustees, I would like to welcome you here tonight. It's going to be a great evening. It already is a great evening. Tonight we are honoring a man that has done so much for East Central College. I can't think of any one person that has done more for East Central College and East Central College communities and is more deserving than Bob Hansen for this honor. As we said before, Bob was an original member of the Board of Trustees. In his 10 years, he held office as Vice President, Secretary, and President. Bob was also a charter member of the ECC Foundation Board. He was also president of that. You know, to move things along, we have put together a short video that we will play at this time.
The rise of East Central College, from its founding in 1968 to where it is today, is due to the hard work and efforts of many in the community, leaders like Bob Hansen, who played a crucial role in establishing the foundation of the college.
I recall we went on tours of different colleges, campuses around.
The original ECC Board of Trustees worked together to shape the college. One of the major responsibilities of the board was to hire the first president and select the land on which to build the campus. Bob Hansen was one of the original 6 board members, serving 28 years.
Well, if I were an artist and commissioned to do a painting of the ideal college trustee, it would be Bob Hansen. He's the epitome of what a college trustee should be.
In addition to his time on the board, Hansen also served for more than 20 years as a board member for the East Central College Foundation. He recognizes the importance of a student's education and was instrumental in endowing a student scholarship by using funds from a City of Union bicentennial celebration.
It was with Bob's leadership that kind of brought us to that point, and we wanted to invest back to the community.
Bob Hansen has given much of himself to East Central College, and in return the college will honor that devotion, dedicating the current auditorium and classroom building in his honor, Robert E. Hansen Hall.
I'm very grateful, but I just find it hard that I deserve it. But I do accept it with great humility, because it'll be pretty neat to see Hansen Hall somewhere out there.
I just would like to join others in thanking him for his many years of service to East Central College, and I think it's very appropriate that the college recognizes him by naming a building after him. I think it's very appropriate. He deserves it.
A modest person, Hansen is honored by the gesture, although accepting such a recognition is not his style.
Bob's had the opinion, certainly, that if naming buildings came about, that he always had other names that possibly should be chosen before certainly his. I think choosing Bob as as the recipient is a wonderful move on the part of the college.
Well, I hope there'll be a few people that show up.
The legacy of Robert E. Hansen will live on at East Central College, remembering his positive influence on East Central students, faculty, staff, and fellow board members. He wanted to assist in building a college that would help his community grow and prosper.
Every time I drive into town coming back from the city or going out of town, I have to sneak a look at East Central because it's an impact on this whole area. I think it's helped attract businesses to all the communities around here, to have facilities that can train and educate people that move into the workforce.
He has been a very faithful, true believer in the college and what it can do for the community, and he worked very hard to see that it was a success.
To sum it all up, what I would say is that Bob Hansen is one class act.
Alvera, Bill, thanks so much for participating in our program tonight. You put a little extra special to it, so thank you for that. Next on the deal, I'm going to call Prudence Fink to come up and have a few comments. Prudence is a good friend of Bob's, and not only is a good friend, but Prudence also served on the board with Bob, and not many people say that. But Prudence, you can come on up.
I asked my husband, Bob, what should I say about Bob tonight? And he said, well, you got to tell him he's a good guy. And I said, well, he is a good guy, but I'd like to say a little bit more than that. I've known Bob, I think for the 40 years that I've had an office in Union, Missouri. Bob, his brother, and before them, I guess his dad, Herman, served this community with a title office, which is very important to everybody in this community to make sure that when they bought a piece of land, whether it was their house or their farm, that they knew that they had good title and nobody was going to take it away from them because somebody cheated on the title. That alone is a tremendous community service to everybody who ever owned a piece of land in Franklin County. But Bob took it a little further. But you know, I'm going to go back and say his dad took it a little further. My father's alive, he's 98 years old, lives here in Union, and knew Bob's dad and Bob's brother. But I was looking at some photos that my dad dug out of a closet a couple of weeks ago. He wanted me to see them, and they were from a long time ago. And the pictures that he was showing me were of Union High School. And one, of course, was my own grandfather, who was the leader of the band of Union High School back, I think maybe before, or maybe during, I don't know, the teens or the 20s, I'm not really sure. And then there was another picture, and I said, who's this? And he says, that's the choir. And there was Herman Hansen leading the choir. So Bob comes from a family who dedicated themselves to community service, because I was assured by my father that Mr. Hansen was not paid for his service as the choir director, but he did it out of a love of this community and of course a love of music and a love for the children in this community. And so I think Bob's dedication and service to ECC stems at least in part from his upbringing and his affiliation with his parents. And if you read the program here tonight, you can see that it's not only he served ECC, but he's been on the Rotary, he served on the Missouri Arts Council, he served with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Industrial Development Commission, he served with the Shaw Nature Reserve in Gray Summit, he served the church here in Union with the Zion United Church of Christ. You want to see some beautiful artwork, stop by Zion. Most of it is from Bob. And now I was invited yesterday. Somebody said, you know, we're going to have a dedication. He's been very generous with the Franklin County Historical Society. Bob is just an amazing guy, and these are just some of the highlights. Not only is he a good guy, but he's an amazing guy with his selfless devotion to not only Union, but this whole community, and even the state of Missouri. I think, as the only person here that served on the board with Bob, even though it was only for a couple of years, I have to tell you, Bob was a peacemaker on the board. Sometimes things would get a little cantankerous. I was probably part of that. But he was always a peacemaker. He would say, you know, we've got to, let's get along, let's use common sense, let's come to agreement and do the best for the college. That was always his guiding light. He was a great leader on the Board of Trustees. I think that he always had the college's interest, whether it was the short run or the long run. He always had the college's interest because he knew that this was going to develop into something really special, not only for Union, but for this whole community, the people, and not just kids. Everyone, adults, kids, anyone who wanted to pursue their education could do so here at an affordable cost and get a quality education. And he devoted himself, and I think in his own way has continued to devote himself to that goal. I'm proud to call Bob Hansen not only my friend and colleague, but my neighbor. He's not only my neighbor on the courthouse square in Union, but he doesn't live too far away from where I've lived now for 30 years. And I'm ecstatic, I have to tell everyone here, that instead of an alphabet soup name A, C, B, C, 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 we're now going to have Robert Hansen Hall. Thank goodness. It's about time. I'd just like to wind up with this idea. As a native of Union, Missouri, Bob Hansen has lived up to a legacy that he got, I believe, from his parents. He was raised here in Union. And just as they gave to the community, he followed their example, and he has given to this community. He's devoted his time, his talent, his treasure, and he's given it to ECC and so many other worthy causes. But let's just talk and focus on ECC because that's where we are here tonight. And he's done more than his fair share to help past, present, and future students at this college to get a quality education right here in their own backyard, which is amazing if you think about it. Not many people have that opportunity, not only in this state, because a lot of people have to travel a lot further than just in their own county. But, you know, think about it, even in the world, you know, how many people have the opportunity to get a really quality higher education for an affordable price? And Bob Hansen has been instrumental, as much as anybody in this community since this college was founded, to make sure that's happened right here. Thank you, Bob, for being a good guy.
When the first college board was elected in 1968, its primary responsibility was to hire the college's first president, and what a job they did. The board selected Dr. Donald D. Shook, who had served as first president of Crowder College in Neosho, was then founding president here at East Central, and then later served as founding president at St. Charles Community College. I'm not sure there is anybody else who can say they've been founding president at 3 institutions. Dr. Shook guided the institution here for 18 years and worked with Bob and the rest of the board on those crucial decisions that would chart the course for the college through those early years and to the point of becoming a mature institution. So as we honor Bob tonight, we're certainly pleased to have Dr. Shook join us this evening, and I hope you help me in welcoming him to the podium. Dr. Shook.
I am somewhat overwhelmed by the number of people I've seen here this evening that bring back so many fond memories. When they asked me to make remarks, I thought, well as I know Bob, I can probably do that off my hand and not make much preparation. But I'm glad I had second thoughts and decided I'd better put some things down, because it's great to see so many people that I had great experiences with for a period of 18 years. It's always a pleasure to visit the East Central campus, and it's especially true today to be part of a building dedication in honor of Robert E. Hansen, an individual who has an outstanding record as 28 years as a member of the board and an even longer period of being a supporter. I worked with Bob for 18 years. I've known Bob for 46 years. Being a community college trustee is not a simple task of just showing up for a monthly meeting, and that is certainly the case for a new community college. In helping start 3 community colleges, my observation was that the first elected board of trustees in all situations faced an even more challenging time than they envisioned when they filed as a candidate for the first board to be elected. The residents of the East Central College District were fortunate to have a good slate of candidates to choose from, and they elected a capable first board, and in that group, Bob garnered the 3rd highest vote total out of a field of 23. He was valuable during his entire tenure, but this was especially true in the early years when the board was extremely busy, renting and leasing space, buying real estate, building buildings, furnishing buildings. His expertise was very helpful in these above-mentioned areas, and as has been mentioned, he also served as board president, vice president, and secretary. He has a great appreciation for the mission of community colleges, which is making education available to those with limited opportunities. East Central benefited in many other ways from his interest and support. For example, and has been mentioned, he co-chaired the Citizens Committee that promoted passage of a $7.8 million bond issue. He was president of the East Central College Foundation at one time. He was appointed by Governor John Ashcroft to the 15-member Arts Council. And he was certainly a member of church, civic, and community groups. Bob is a person who puts service and support above self, as shown by his generous acts of kindness. He has a big welcome mat at his door and thoroughly enjoys entertaining in his home. It is my impression today that the residents of this college district are proud of their college and what it has accomplished in recent years. The campus with new buildings, more land, and better access are all worthy accomplishments. New programs and services have been added, making it a more comprehensive college. The College Foundation is doing an outstanding job of expanding programs and keeping in touch with members and prospective members. All of this is the result of the efforts of many people from the time of the first board to the board serving today. And Bob has been there throughout the history of this college. It is thus fitting and appropriate that this well-known resident of Franklin County, Robert E. Hansen, be recognized today. And June and I are pleased to be here today to see him honored in this way. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. At this time, I'd ask Mr. Hansen and Mr. Perry if you would come forward. Mr. Perry, of course, representing the Board of Trustees. At this time, we're going to unveil the plaque for Hansen Hall, and Mr. Perry, if you would do the honors.
Wow.
Let me read this. The plaque reads as follows. Robert E. Hansen was one of 6 trustees elected when the college district was formed in 1968 and served continuously until 1996. His service on the board included 3 terms as board president. During Mr. Hansen's tenure on the board, the site for the campus was acquired and a significant portion of campus construction was completed. This included construction of this facility, which began in 1978, was expanded in 1985 and expanded again in 1998. The final expansion was made possible through the efforts of a citizens committee co-chaired by Mr. Hansen. Recognizing his instrumental role in the growth of the college, trustees named this facility Robert E. Hansen Hall.
This is hard to,
Ready?
I think so. You'll have to bear with me. This is not my cup of tea to speak to a group. But, and I was really worried if anybody was going to show up this evening. And it's so nice to see so many friends here tonight. It's beyond description, in my wildest imagination, the benefits East Central College has provided to citizens and the communities of the entire college district. It was a real interesting venture for all of us on that first board. George Bisher, whom we elected our first and longtime chairman. Then there's Don Means, who a lifelong friend and a fellow graduate of UHS with me. Harrison Eaton of Sullivan, who was then county superintendent of schools. And we met in his office, which is now the historic courthouse. Then there was Elmer Cowan from Sullivan, and Wilbur Redditch from kind of St. Clair and Union, and myself. And I'm so very pleased to have been a part of it for so many years. Shortly thereafter, we began the task of selecting our first president of East Central Community College back then. Dr. Don Shook was the man chosen to locate temporary facilities, hire initial faculty and staff members. And I'm so pleased that they're here this evening, as well as all of you. And of course, there were many, many others who were instrumental in the formation of the college. One of the highlights was standing on this hill and breaking ground for the first building, which is now remodeled as the Bisher Administration Building. It's always debatable if a trustee should be on the board for 28 years, and I must confess that I decided not to run for the last 6-year term, but that changed when several members of the faculty, each of whom I greatly respected, came to the office and asked that I continue, and I agreed for another term, and did happen to make it. Then you fast forward to over a year ago when Jim and Prudence stopped by to share the board's proposal to name a building in my honor. I was very hesitant, as buildings, more often than not, are named after the deceased. But I'm still here, and here we all are. And tonight's event is certainly a highlight of my 83 years. At home, I have this box labeled Wonderful Stuff. It's filled with items probably only interest to me, but they include membership pins, badges, campaign buttons, pledge pins, and now the 50-year membership pins are beginning to come in. This box of wonderful stuff filled up, and I was moving the contents to larger quarters. And one item popped right out to the top, and it was a campaign issue of years ago. Simply says, ECC yes. May we all continue to be dedicated to provide quality educational opportunities to all who have the desire, the interest, and the will to join us. Thank you all from the bottom of
Bob, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the faculty, staff, and students of East Central College, and the grateful citizens of the College District, thank you and congratulations, Hansen Hall. As we close tonight, I want to thank some special people who have attended, and I ask you to hold your applause until the end, and we'll recognize all of these individuals at once. Certainly, we're well represented by past and present members of the East Central College Foundation Board, led this year by Mary Brunges. We have former President Dr. Ed Jackson and his wife Dana are here, as well as Dr. Shook and his wife June, and we appreciate you being here as well. The President of Central Methodist University is here. East Central, as you know, has a 2+2 arrangement and has had for about 20 years with Central Methodist, and we're pleased Dr. Roger Drake is here in the back. Thank you for coming from Fayette this evening. And of course, the faculty, administration, and staff of East Central College, who I know work each day to fulfill the vision and dream, Bob, that you had for the college back in 1968. And we are so pleased to have so many members, past and present, of the East Central family here this evening, and many elected officials and other civic leaders. Thank all of you for being here this evening. Let's give yourselves a round of applause. Please enjoy and take with you the bookmarks that you have received. Maybe this will go into Bob's box of wonderful things, I hope. I'll try to demonstrate. It's the college seal, of course, but can be easily used as a bookmark or page mark by taking it out and clipping it. So we hope that's a nice memento from this evening. Thank you for attending, and welcome to Robert E. Hansen Hall.